Fridays at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time, and it's time to talk about training camp. We have a ton more stuff to go over. It seems like every day the 49ers have a ton of news coming out of training camp, and some of it is very exciting. Some of it is like, whatever, and then some of it is,
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to describe it.
Because people tend to overblow some of that information, and it just makes you ponder and go,
No way.
What? What? What's going on? But look, before we get it too far into any of this, make sure you hit that like button, make sure you hit that subscribe button, become a member of the Cutback crew today, and let us know how excited you were about Day 5 and some of the things that you liked from it while we talk about it and break it down. Because there were a lot of things to talk about, a lot of things to discuss. First thing on the docket, as always, the big topic for every 49ers fan is who didn't practice? Who didn't?
Yeah.
Fans are showing up now and literally just like a checklist. He's there. They're like teachers taking attendance in class. He's here. Check. Okay, great.
Yeah, and I'm sitting there going, and then...
Bueller. Samson Ebukam out with a leg, and McCole Pruitt still out with the calf injury. Samson Ebukam had some soreness, right? Leg soreness they were talking about, and so they kind of just gave him the day off, trying to make sure there's nothing too serious going on there, especially when you're coming off of a rest day and you're still having some soreness. It's not concerning, but it's definitely not one of those things that you want to push and tell a guy, hey, you're just going to need to suck it up and get through this. You're coming off of an off day. Who knows? Maybe the workout yesterday he did was just a little too much. He probably did something on his own, I would imagine. He probably didn't just take the whole day off. And so it's just better to be safe than to be sorry.
Yeah, sometimes your legs are sore. I mean, that's just what happens. It's better to take an extra rest day and make sure that you're good. And then when you come back, you're ready to go. It's more important for him to be ready to go when it gets time for games, not for day 5 of practice. The overemphasis on these guys practicing on certain days is kind of laughable, because some of these guys are veteran players who know how to do it in this league, and they understand. And this training staff is doing a good job of making sure that the 49ers players are going to be able to be on the field long term. Get used to rest days. That's going to happen. Veterans are going to get rest days, and they should not be punished or even looked down upon because they're having rest days. Soreness is real. If you're, have any sort of a give, or you're favoring any sort of a muscle, you can hamper another muscle by doing so. So this is just a normal thing. No problems with this. Ebukam will be back, and everything will be right with the world again.
I want it to be right with the world, and I have faith in you there and believe that that's the case as well. Again, when you have a serious injury, there's going to be a story about it. There's going to be release of information. Nothing is coming out on this other than soreness and some tightness. It is what it is. I mean, they're athletes, right? They push their bodies. They're pushing themselves to the physical limit each and every day. And it's week 1. Well, this is now officially week 2, but they're coming off of week 1.
Yeah.
So there's going to be some acclimation period with your body getting used to and adjusting. And also, Samson Ebukam is doing different things than he was doing in the past. He was playing more of a traditional linebacker role with those Rams down there. He's not playing that as much, which means different types of drills, different sorts of strain and stress being put on the body. And so he's going to have to adjust. That doesn't mean there's anything to be concerned about. It's 5 days in, folks. Just take a deep breath, relax.
It's going to be a long haul.
That's true. It's going to be a long haul, and it's going to be A-okay. It's going to be just fine.
Yeah.
But speaking of injuries, and speaking of guys going out with injuries, we did have our first scare of training camp. It looks like things may be okay. Shanahan talked about being pretty optimistic about the injury, but Al-Shaair went down with a knee injury in practice on Monday. Doctors said everything looks to be okay. They're running their tests. They're doing all of that, and they don't really have any information in terms of how he did it.
Yeah.
But anytime you hear knee and injury, terrifying.
Yeah, and Fred Warner helped him get to the locker room, which is always concerning. Anytime that a player is concerned about his teammate like that, you start to wonder. But the fact that the doctors are very optimistic is usually a good sign. You could visibly tell last year when Kyle Shanahan would come to give these reports if something was going to be unfavorable or not. they're at least being optimistic with this. It doesn't mean we're out of the woods yet until we officially get that diagnosis that he's going to be fine or what is going to happen. It does bring up questions about what they would do at the linebacker position if Azeez is gone. I'm not so sure they have a guy that they feel comfortable putting in there right now to fill that role. But as of right now, I'm not going to get too far ahead because I think Azeez is going to be back. I don't think they would be approaching the press conference the way they did if they thought Azeez had tore something or something of that nature.
Agreed. And we won't speculate too much during this. This is more of just talking about what's going on and speaking of the reality of the situation, which is, as of right now, the information we have is injured, got help to the locker room, doctors and coach feel optimistic. So, I mean, as 49ers fans, you should feel optimistic.
Yeah.
Obviously concerning, but at the end of the day, this may be a nothing burger. This may be a whole lot of nothing. Could be a knee sprain, could be a hyperextension for all we know. Could just be a sprain. ACL sprains, yes, they're not fun. They're not great. You don't like those types of things. But it's not a tear. And as long as there's no ligament damage or, things of that nature or scope cleanup process that needs to be happening this season, then you could see Alshire back on the field, right before season starts.
It could open the door for somebody else.
Correct. This opens the door. That does open the door for Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles to assert himself in this linebacking group. Jonas Griffith, especially as well, and Justin Hilliard. All three of those guys are names now to watch.
Marcel Harris.
Marcel Harris as well. That's another name to watch. He could now be sliding himself into big-time linebacking snaps. And the Niners going heavy nickel packages with maybe Marcel Harris on the field.
Which is something they could do. They could go heavy nickel package, and that is something I think we're going to see a lot this year. Just the way that the league is approaching football with all the multiple receiver sets, 3x1, all that. You're going to see nickel more than ever before.
It's accurate. It's accurate indeed. Then we got some other couple guys getting nicked up and having some issues. Tim Harris leaving practice with some tightness in his leg. Deontae Johnson, similar type of thing. Tim Harris was on the sideline for the rest of practice, right? Had the leg in a wrap. Got to see some Ambry Thomas reps though because of this. So this was good. This was good opportunity for the youngster to get out there and get some first team reps. But it's always a little disheartening when you're seeing your secondary guy starting to go down, right? And it being a leg stuff. But again, it doesn't seem like these are catastrophic sort of nicks and bruises and injuries. It's just day-to-day grind sort of stuff. And again, the training staff being cautious, trying to keep these guys healthy and trying to be proactive when dealing with issues with their bodies instead of being reactive.
You're also trying to manage these guys' reps, and you already have Emmanuel Moseley not out there, so the reps have been increased for everyone. And also Tim Harris Jr. is getting more reps than he's ever gotten before. So he showed up to practice with the wrap around his hamstring and thigh area. So yes, they were going to take a cautious approach with him. Ended up that he needed to step away. That is better. You want to make sure these guys stay healthy. You don't want an injury in training camp that could have been prevented. I think this is what everyone was clamoring for, right? With Kyle Shanahan, make sure that you and the training staff are taking care of these players. That's exactly what they're doing. They're taking a proactive approach, making sure that soreness and tightness doesn't turn into pulls and strains and stuff of that nature. So they're doing a good job. This isn't too crazy anything to think. But Ambry Thomas got out there. Yes, he didn't give up any catches. He also didn't have any targets. So they didn't even look his way. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing or just not part of the plan. Whatever it is, at least he got more reps. That's good for him. It's never bad to get reps. But look for the 49ers to, be better off in that secondary once Emmanuel Moseley gets back and they can kind of spread these reps around so all these guys aren't getting too much work. But to me, until there's a serious injury, I'm not really worried about it.
This work is too much. This work is not enough. This work is just right. That's what we want. Right in the middle. Yeah. Right where it's supposed to be.
Right down the middle.
Right down the middle. Then we got some returns. Guys coming back after some days off. These are the exciting things that you love to hear about. The first few names, not a surprise. George Kittle, after his nice Saturday off and his Sunday off, coming back into the fold for Monday practice. Being George Kittle. We love that. And then Greenlaw. The blister, right, sat out the practice. I saw some ridiculous takes that might be featured on Big Yikes about how if he's going to sit out of practice for a blister, maybe we shouldn't be thinking of this guy as one of the best linebackers in football. And this linebacking core, Bowman never would have sat out for. Willis never would have sat out for it. Let's keep in mind that person said Willis wouldn't. I'm like, you do realize that Patrick Willis literally retired for injury purposes, right? Like health of his body and concern.
Feet problems.
Yes.
Literally foot problems.
Literally foot problems, but literally like to maintain his health and the longevity of his career. Listen, running on a foot with a blister, especially if it's in the wrong spot, don't get me wrong. There are much more painful things in the world, but that is not an easy thing to do, especially when you're an elite caliber athlete trying to play a linebacker in the NFL against quick guys.
Mm-hmm.
It can affect biomechanics, which can affect other aspects of your body and other aspects of your movement, your feet, things of that nature, especially if you're not planning or wanting to push off your foot fully. That can lead to bad things. If you're having to think about the basics, right, running, how to run, the way you run, that leads to bad things happening, or it leads to you not performing at a high level, which affects the team. So it's better to just take 2 days, get yourself right, get your mental right, and then come back and be ready to go.
Missed day 4 of practice. Day 4, okay? And this was the part where they're still installing the defense. You know what Dre Greenlaw already knows?
Is it the defense?
The defense.
Okay.
So this
was that a 2-minute warning question?
This is not a concern at all. You have a blister. Why not take care of it? Take 2 days off, come back, because when pads get on, you want your guy there. You want him to finish install. Install finishes after 7 practices. They're almost finished with install. This is not a big deal. And
if it's a game he's playing, we all know that. This isn't a game. This is day 4 of training camp.
we're overhyping how important it is for some of these guys at practice.
It's a little,
in my opinion.
You mean we need to be taking Allen Iverson more seriously?
Yeah.
We're talking about
practice, man. Not a game. Not a game.
A game you die for?
Yeah, exactly.
Who else did we have return to this Monday practice?
Yes. I know everyone was shocked because everyone was down in the depths. He had missed 2 practices. It was the end of him. He was never going to be seen again in San Francisco. But behold, Jalen Hurd was there again. 3 days off. He's back, better than ever. Out there, getting in his work, going through drills. Got to watch the drills. It was impressive. He went through his everyday drills, and he looked good. He looked clean. He didn't look sore. This is exactly what you expect. Kyle Shanahan said in the press conference, this is the plan for Jalen Hurd. Get used to it. He's going to practice. He's going to have days off. He's going to practice. He's going to have days off. What you're going to see is the amount of days of practice are going to increase, and the amount of days off are going to go down as they get through camp, and they're going to work him into 11-on-11s. That's what he said. So this is the plan, guys. Get used to it. Get ready for it. But Jalen Hurd is back. He's not going away. I've been telling you. This is something you can just expect to see as number 14 tearing up the field all season long. I'm looking forward to that. I really am. It was good to see him back out there, and it was even better to. I saw a post on one of the Facebook groups. Someone had posted and put a picture of Jalen Hurd stubbing his toe, screaming, and then turning around to someone who was laughing at him. I retire, and I was like, "I was funny. It's a good meme, but it's not like the reality of the situation." But people were taking it serious. It's exactly what it's like with this guy. I swear, and it's like, oh my gosh, folks, we're talking about days, maintenance days, planned days off. You need to take a chill pill, slow down. Well, if it was a planned day off, how come, he was a no-show? No one knew. Unknown was the reason stated. Oh, it was unknown to the media. It was unknown to the press. Because DeMeco Ryan spoke the next day, and a lot of times defensive coaches or the defensive coordinators, offensive coordinators don't speak about injuries. It's usually just Kyle and John. Yes. So if it's not Kyle and John talking, you're not going to get any information on injuries. That's why it would be unknown if he's not there. Correct. That's why it would be unknown. Yeah. So look, we're not shocked. Again, everything's still proceeding according to plan. With management and maintaining players and their health and things of that nature. To the moon. To the moon. We love it. Javon Kinlaw being back as well. Yes. That was nice to see. And for the first time all training camp, in some team drills. Let me just tell you, I like this guy. When he was doing his press conference, I like his attitude. He is a no-nonsense guy. He's been working out at the facility since February. No days off, no vacations. He's going there every single day. And then people are questioning him on if he's better than those other guys. He was mad he only got 8 to 10 reps in practice today in the 11-on-11s, and also was very self-assured and said he wants to be remembered as one of the great ones one day. And he said he doesn't care what anyone says, what anyone thinks, he's going to do it. Irritated, pissed off Javon Kinlaw is what we need. Be careful. He's going to treat everyone like they're a squirrel this year. I really want him to. And in all honesty, we really only have one person to thank. Thank you, Thanos. Yeah. We appreciate that. Keep spitting that nonsense out there and pissing this man off. Because if a pissed off Javon Kinlaw ends up becoming one of the greatest of all times, my goodness gracious almighty, the DeForest Buckner trade becomes one of the greatest trades in the history of the 49ers franchise. I did like what he was saying, working on Sedfield. They asked him, about him, D Ford, and Nick Bosa working on the Sedfield. I don't know if it was a serious question or not, but he did say he's been picking their brains. He's been learning, what pass rush moves to use, how to get out of certain situations, hand placement, all that stuff. He said he likes to pick everyone's brain. Also went into the fact that Chris Kasarik had him watching Ndamukong Suh film, and he wants to play with that kind of violent intensity, and he enjoys watching Ndamukong Suh. He also mentioned Nick Fairley as well as guys that he looks, to as to get experience from, and to kind of glean some stuff off of them. So I thought that was really nice.
Also, 2 guys who played for Chris Kasarik at some point in time. What a surprise!
Yeah, that was smart, right? Guys that are doing the same thing he's doing in the same system of defensive line that he's doing it in.
Mm-hmm. And Fairley has not had the same amount of success since Kasarik wasn't there.
Yeah.
So I mean that's impressive and good.
He's done fairly well.
He's done. I get it. That was good. But Horse, are you here? Is Horse feeding your lines? What's happening here? Look, other D-line members, right?
Yeah.
Making some big-time team appearances. I was a little shocked to see D Ford having some team reps.
Yeah.
I didn't expect it to be this early. I expected it to be a little bit further out. But Shanahan comes out and lets everybody know that was the schedule. This was the plan from the beginning, was essentially day 5 being his first day, right? The first 5 in 5-5 was supposed to be his first time back on the field in team drills with this team. And looked all right. Looked pretty good. He definitely had the step there, and was really giving the O-line some push.
What's great is there's been no setbacks. He's practiced every single day. He's done what he's supposed to do. He's done individual drills and then worked on a side field until he progressed until today off a day off. He comes in and now he's getting it done. So I like it. I like the fact that he's progressing and they're sticking to the plan for D Ford. No setbacks is good. We get this guy in nickel situations, rushing opposite of Samson Ebukam, Nick Bosa on the field with them. It's going to be scary. So this is big time. I think this was always the bonus. We believed at some point that we were going to get D Ford because just the way that they were talking, the way that they were addressing this, the fact he didn't retire, and now it's all coming to kind of fruition. So stay healthy. Because if so, this defense is not just one of the top teams; it's the top team.
Yeah,
and that's how good they are when they get this pass rush going.
Oh yeah, and it's going to be nasty. Oh. It's going to be nasty.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And then speaking of the wide receiver position and just the wide receiver position as a whole, not just individual, the whole. Kyle Shanahan talked a little bit about all of it. Talked about Debo, how good Debo's looked.
Yeah,
how surprised he was by how much changed from OTAs, and the 40 days off that they had from OTAs to the first day of training camp, because he thought Debo was there and he said, it'll be interesting to see he has some time off. We'll see how he looks. And he comes in and he's in the best shape of his life. He's like, oh, okay, he's taking it serious. And we all felt that way when we saw Debo, especially when you get out there and you see him running routes, you see him getting up and going after deep balls and 50-50 balls and things of that nature. It's a good thing to see as a 49ers fan, because it's the one aspect of his game that everyone has kind of knocked, right? And the whole gadget player thing has been being thrown out about Debo. Debo's showing a little bit to the people and being like, hey, no. I do that because I'm great in the system with it, and the team needs that. But I can do whatever I need to do. I'm a football player.
Yeah, one of the things Will Muschamp had said about Debo Samuel is occasionally he'll not take care of his diet, and so he will come in a little bit heavy at times. That is something the 49ers know. When Kyle Shanahan's talking about there's players that they don't have to worry about, that they don't have to check in on, and there's some that they do, Debo's one of those guys that they do. But the one thing is I think last year, he had the foot injury while working out, and it really hindered him. And he didn't like what happened. It was for one of the first times he had to go out there and suffer injuries and miss football time. A lot of guys aren't used to that. They can just go out there. They don't have to prepare their bodies as much, and they're still as talented as everybody else, and they can get it done. He's finding out that you need to make sure you take care of your body at an all-time level. You learn this as a young player, and he learned it. And he's made a lot of steps and done a lot of things. The fact that when he left OTAs, he really made sure he got himself even better shape than he was in those 40 days. He's doing the yoga, doing the stretching, making sure he's got his body right. I think that there's something to this. George Kittle does yoga. Jimmy Ward does yoga. And now Debo Samuel. Guys who have had injury concerns, turning to yoga and getting their flexibility down, which flexibility is huge in sports in general. So I like it a lot. I like Debo being active. I like the fact he's going to be able to attack down the field vertically and do all the underneath stuff. Sky's the limit for this group. I mean, it really is. This wide receiver core is going to be straight up nasty, and anyone that doesn't see it yet, get ready to jump on board. It's coming. I'm telling you, it's coming. I can see it.
Yeah, it's gonna be a tidal wave for the people who don't know, and not like a little mini tidal wave. We're talking like monsoon levels of tidal waves.
Yeah.
For teams or fans or just football aficionados who aren't paying attention to this wide receiving group, this wide receiving group is going to be nasty.
Yeah.
Especially when you add in some of the other pieces and when you dial in wide receiver 3, which is what Kyle Shanahan kind of talked about. He brought it up. He mentioned this competition, right? Mohamed Sanu right now is kind of presumed to be the guy, I would say, in most circles. I think most 49ers fans feel like that for the most part. You do have your, Richie James fans out there. You have your Travis Benjamin fans out there. But I'd say a majority of fans feel it's Mohamed Sanu at this point in time. However, Shanahan clarified no one's really separated themselves. And then he went on to drop a couple of names.
Yeah, that's the thing. The hype train has been running wild at training camp, and that is something that happens every year, right?
Correct.
We've heard all throughout years, watch, Sean Poindexter, watch Trent Taylor, watch this guy. There's always a hype train. Mohamed Sanu early on, hype train. I know Trent Sherfield's getting some hype now.
Yep.
And then also today, Richie James had a couple of big plays down the field.
And before Benny Fowler got cut, Benny Fowler.
Right. So there is a hype train that rolls. Kyle Shanahan is putting this into perspective. Yes, we have good receivers. Nobody has separated themselves yet. But he did say, we'll see what happens when Jawan Jennings gets off the COVID list and Jalen Hurd gets into 11 on 11s. That gives you an idea of his thought process of where those guys match up. That is a good sign for Jalen Hurd. That's a good sign for Jawan Jennings about how their head coach and offensive mind feels about them in this system. Yes, that is 100%. I said from the beginning, Jalen Hurd's going to be wide receiver 3. Just give it time. He has to get healthy. And once he is, he's going to take that role. So it doesn't surprise me that Kyle Shanahan's looking at this. And it doesn't surprise me that no one separated themselves. Number one, no pads. Pads are coming now. We got pads now. So that will change things because now people will have to produce after the catch.
Yep.
And people will have to take hits over the middle. And when you're not worried about taking a hit, you catch a lot of passes. When you're worried about taking a hit, you cringe, you close your eyes, you don't catch the ball, you short arm things, you alligator arm. All those things are going to be changing. Right now you're going to, separate the men from the boys here.
Absolutely. This is where you get your popcorn ready, like T.O. used to say.
Oh, yeah.
Got to get the popcorn ready because this is where things are going to heat up and things are going to get interesting. As Ant likes to say on the podcast, kick the tires and light the fires.
Dude.
It's happening, folks, and it's here now. And there's just a lot of things, right? There's a lot of other things going on. Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo, the always highly contested debate. Lots of conflicting stats being put out there in terms of completion percentages, who's actually performing better, who's actually this, who's actually that. We're seeing different 49ers talking heads posting different statistics.
Yes.
So it's really hard to keep track of who's being honest and who's not because someone is misrepresenting data and facts in terms of who's completing what types of passes.
Yeah.
The only things I know for certainty are that Nate Sedfield did in fact go 6 for 6 in day 4 of training camp. Yeah. So I know that happened, and kudos to you, Nate Sedfield, slowly building his lead over Josh Rosen and solidifying that QB3 spot, which may not even make the roster to begin with. But Trey Lance taking some reps today. They're really, I wouldn't say they're leaning into it, but they're definitely now expanding and letting him show off some of the athleticism, getting him out of the pocket, more reads, zone read options, more just moving around and letting him move around and be free and let him be a little bit more of an athlete, which plays to the strength, and that makes sense because that's most likely what you're going to do with Trey Lance right now if he's getting in with packages.
Yeah.
And we got to see him in the red zone today.
Yes, we did. And I'm gonna make it real clear. If we're worried about completion percentage, Nate Sedfield is the future quarterback of this team. He's completing 84% of his passes.
It's true.
That's why completion percentage doesn't matter. Because if you looked at the percentages, you would have these guys ranked all different. Yes, Rosen is coming up, from behind, but he's also getting the least amount of reps.
Also true.
So it's a struggle for these guys. But yeah, you're right. They're getting into the red zone. This is a part of the install process. That's why you got the read option, the zone read that was going on before. Today they were working on some RPOs in practice. I got to watch a little bit of that. No, it's not a read option when they throw it after they make the move.
That would be an RPO.
It's an RPO. It's a read pass option. That's what it stands for. So, yes, red zone offense was great, though, because we've been discussing for months since they drafted Trey Lance about the red zone offense would have certain packages that featured Trey Lance, and the 49ers executed that today, putting Trey Lance out there, letting him run the ball, letting him pass the ball, and he was very successful. He had, I think, 3 touchdowns out there, and he had 1 running, so that's good. It was on his second zone replay. He got around the outside and scored. So that is a good sign, overall. Jimmy Garoppolo also had a good day in the red zone. Yes, he threw an interception. So did Trey Lance. Both of them threw a red zone interception to the middle linebacker on each, first team and second team.
Yeah, the big difference, though, in terms of who you're throwing interceptions to. All 3 of Garoppolo's interceptions so far in training camp. 2 have been to an all-pro, one of the best linebackers in football. The other to one of the best corners in football. And Trey Lance's is too. We're actually not sure because there's conflicting reports
There is conflicting reports
on what linebacker picked it off.
Yeah.
But regardless, it's an undrafted linebacker, and it's either Jonas Griffith or it's Justin Hilliard.
Yeah, that is part of it too. That's why I can't wait to get out there and see practice ourselves. There'll be no conflicted reports when we're there.
Yeah, you'll have eight sets of eyes.
8 sets of eyes paying attention. I don't worry about the stats, so you guys will probably have to take care of the stats. I will remember who made the plays. That's something I'm good at. But as far as stats, I don't really care about that. But I did like that they got into red zone offense, and both quarterbacks overall were successful. Both quarterbacks had a very successful day again. Don't worry about those interceptions. You're taking multiple reps in the red zone, and you don't think that on one of those attempts, an all-pro linebacker is going to make a play on a ball that you're trying to squeeze in tight to Dwelly on the back end of the end zone. 100% that's going to happen.
That also could have been a conversation here that, regardless of the coverage here, we want you to try and fit this ball in Dwelly and see if he can make a play.
Well, you're also trying to see if you can fit in the ball.
That's also true.
Those are things you're trying to get through in practice is, hey, what can I do? That throw to get over the linebacker and to the back of the end zone is a tough throw to make. And if you don't have the space.
And if you're going to make that pick, you want to make it now in training camp when the mistake doesn't cost you. And again, you get to watch it on film. You get to break it down. You get to see potentially, footwork-wise, did I do something wrong? Release, can I do something different? Ball placement, where should it actually be? Right? You make that mistake, you get to watch that mistake over and over and over and over and analyze it. Yeah. And the next time you get in that situation, try and come up with a different outcome. Or maybe it was one of those situations where he made a bad read, right? And he shouldn't have gone there with the football. Well, guess what? You've made the mistake. It's on film, and now you get to watch it over and over and over again and figure out, what did I miss? Where was the actual matchup? All right, and then watch the film. Does Fred do something here that tips off what his coverage is and what he's actually trying to play? And can I use that to my advantage next time?
Actually, what happened was a all-pro player made a great play. It was the right read. The throw was a little flat. He drifted and made the interception. Because Fred Warner is the one that's reading Jimmy Garoppolo.
And he's elite.
And he is elite. But he's got some tells on Jimmy Garoppolo. That's why he knows where Jimmy's going with the ball a couple times. That is great because he's going to be able to go and share those things with Jimmy Garoppolo. Hey, Jimmy, look at this. Hey, Jimmy, look at that. And they'll get on Jimmy will get on the right page and he'll figure this out. So interceptions and probably, like I've told people, I wasn't worried about Jimmy Garoppolo throwing interceptions. I'm not worried about Trey Lance throwing interceptions either. We have to mention, because we mentioned Trey Lance is having fumble snaps. Sure. Jimmy Garoppolo had a fumbled snap with Alex Mack.
I know.
Kyle Shanahan explained, though, it wasn't Jimmy Garoppolo's fault. It was actually Alex Mack's fault because Mack was making some line calls and froze for a second. Everyone went off besides him, and the ball came up late. So it ended up having, a fumble there, but I just thought we'd bring it up. We make sure that we keep it fair, and we always bring up everyone's little mishaps. Once again, not a big deal. It happens in practice.
I know, and again, you could sit there and nitpick every little detail, right? Jimmy Garoppolo overthrew one to George Kittle in this scenario. Trey Lance, did this in this scenario. You could nitpick it all to death, but at the end of the day, I don't care so much about the mistakes so long as there's consistency, right? If the mistake makes sense, if it's a logical progression to the mistake. Right, you see this, you saw this pre-snap, you see this, you know what your route is. Even if the guy's in this coverage, if I put the ball in this spot, I should be fine, and the DB breaks on it, and he's anticipating, and maybe you stare it down a little bit too much.
Yeah.
There are natural things you can notice in football and with plays on a down-by-down basis, snap-by-snap basis, that a mistake makes sense. What it doesn't make sense is when you do something or run something or try and execute something and there's no chance for it to ever be successful. Those are the situations where you go, oh my God, what are you doing? Like, think back, if Cutback Crew, you can think back to the Josh Rosen film breakdowns for like a specific example. When Josh Rosen is throwing into triple coverage with a corner who is sitting on a comeback route, letting the receiver run past him, running a rail route towards the sideline, sitting there waiting for it. Safety over the top. Linebacker in the middle, literally a triangle of defenders, and Rosen tries to put the ball into triple coverage. Not a good decision. Those are situations where it's like, I don't understand the logical progression that leads to that mistake.
Yeah.
Don't get it, right? But then there are other things, right? You can see a guy running a route, a deep route. He's got one-on-one, right? One-on-one coverage. He's on his hip. He's got a step on him, and you just put the ball up in space, and you just put a little bit too much air under it. And now the ball ends up being behind your receiver instead of in front, and maybe a little bit short because you just gave it a little too much air, and it ends up being picked or something like that. That's a logical mistake, right? Everything leading up to the final decision was correct. It's just the execution that isn't where it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for, especially when we go to training camp. That's what I want to see. I want to see the bad throws. I want to chart all the bad throws, and I want to know where did you miss? Why did you miss? Maybe potentially what did you miss? If I'm able to spot that on the first watch through,
Yeah.
And then was there a better decision? And then also understanding what was the scheme? What were you guys running at the time? What was the defense running? Because you know what? You may see something, you may see man, and you may throw a ball against a guy who's just completely blanketed and there's no reason to throw the ball to him. And it just may be one of those situations where it's like, you know what? It's training camp. It's practice. I'm going to try and trust this guy and let him go make a play and establish some sort of rapport with him.
Yeah, it does make a big difference what play you're running and what defense you're looking at. Everything like that makes sense because you have to be able to make the right read, and deciphering what is going on as far as coverage and then making the right read and getting the ball out is important. It's now going to become, now they're getting into pads, all about execution. That is what it's going to be about. So you're going to see these guys tighten down the hatches a little bit. It's going to be about executing these plays, making sure everything looks crisp and clean. Kyle Shanahan wasn't happy with the way practice looked. He thought the defense looked sluggish. He thought the offense was sloppy. And he thought that was because they came off a day off, and that does happen. When you come back from a weekend, I used to tell my players it was a case of the Mondays because they would come in and a Monday was always a little slow, a little sluggish, almost felt like a waste at times. You get frustrated and have to get on them to get it moving and get it going. It doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes it does coming off that day off. So these guys are out there and they're going to get it, ratcheted up. But I think part of it too is you've got a very veteran team, right? They have some rookies, but they got a very veteran team. They're ready to get on from the install. They're ready to get into pads. They're ready to get going. And now we're going to see that excitement level pick up. You're going to see the physicality pick up. And you're going to see the execution in these plays pick up as they get further and further into this install, and they'll be done with it. Once they're done, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch practice and anything that happens in preseason and training camp because now we're getting into the real execution of plays. That's when you got to lock it down.
No, I mean, that is the most truthful thing anyone's spoken on this podcast in a while, Ant. Having a veteran team, when you have that many guys who are vets and have been in the league and been in your system for as long as some of these guys have now been here, which is 4 or 5 seasons, right, of playing in this offense with this team, with this defense schemes and things of that nature, you're done. You're sick of it.
Okay.
And as a coach who coached teams from the time, groups of kids that were freshmen playing varsity for 4 years, by the time they get to their senior year, they are done with preseason installation period.
Yeah.
They don't want any part of it. We had to have, I've had these conversations with you while it was happening.
Yeah.
Where practices had to get canceled so we could have a team discussion and meeting because guys don't want to show up. They don't want to practice. They don't want to do it. They're like, Coach, we know all this. We've done this, 1,000 times. We know. And I'm like, it isn't for you.
Yeah.
This period isn't for you. It's not for me. It's for the 4 guys that we have who've never been here before.
Yep.
Because those 4 are going to get the same thing that you 12 got when you were freshmen. When it was your first day. It isn't fair to the 4 guys that we have here to not give them the same treatment and give them the same opportunity to learn, install, understand, ask questions, make mistakes. The same mistakes that you made. Your job here isn't to like what we're doing. Your job is to help what we're doing.
Yeah, and it's to show the way. Show those guys how to do it. And that's what these guys are doing. You can see Jason Verrett out there showing Ambry Thomas what to do. Fred Warner's always giving tips to these other linebackers. They're all working together, and that's what it's about. But you go through the same process every single time. When you're implementing a system, it has to go at a certain way. That is what is going on. That's why Kyle Shanahan knows exactly it takes 7 days. He knew exactly when pads were going to come on and how that fits in. Everything is executed to a T. When they get to the end of installation, then the offense can really start, branching out and taking on more of a look. So it was all a process. I don't think we've ever been fooled from the beginning. We knew it was going to be handoffs and it was going to be 3-step drops, 5-step, 7s. Eventually we're going to get into play action and get outside the pocket. Then here came the read options and the RPOs. Now the red zone offense. Guess what? It was all leading to this, so that way they could get into pads.
Don't you mean the RPOs first and then the read options? Because Jimmy can't run the read options, so you have to run the RPOs first.
Kyle clarified that. He does have read option. He said not only did C.J. Beathard run it 4 times against Arizona last year,
accurate.
Jimmy Garoppolo actually tried to run it against the Houston Texans.
He did.
And Jadeveon Clowney whacked him, so it wasn't a good pull. So he said he actually shied away from calling it with Jimmy under center because of that reason. But just because Jimmy doesn't run it well doesn't mean it hasn't been in the offense the whole time.
Correct. And this is the funny part. I actually saw someone try and make this argument that because of a guy like Jimmy, you're only going to install the RPOs first and then just the read options for Trey Lance. And it's like, no. You would actually install your read options first because your read options set up your RPOs.
Correct.
If you don't run read option, then an RPO has literally no effect. It's going to have very minimal effect unless it's from under center in sort of an eye back look or a traditional set look where Jimmy's taking a snap under center. That would be the only time an RPO would make sense in that regard if that's how you're going to run RPOs. RPOs out of the gun, giving a read look or an outside stretch look and then pulling and throwing don't make any sense unless you're going to be running a read option.
Yeah, you have to have the threat of the run. That's why Jimmy's so good at running the RPO from under center. Because a play should be handing off. He'll see the way that the look is. The receiver has space, and he'll just take one step and throw that ball and get it out into the open window. And then, we've seen Debo have a lot of success in 2019 with that.
Oh yeah.
So that is something that he does well. So RPOs are very good. They're very successful, but you go through a process of everything. It all leads to one step leads to the other. It's just the way it is. It's just
building blocks.
It's been like this since the beginning of football. I don't know what to tell people. Everyone always wants to go straight from handing off to rolling out and running play action, and that's just not the way it works.
Well, they just want to be the New York Jets, right? Who do they think they are? The New York Jets? Just come out there and shotgun 5 wide receivers.
1, 2, 3, 4,
5.
Yeah,
5.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I know. I don't get it sometimes. I think sometimes we're overcritical, and I myself has kind of pushed pause on this, and that's because I have that football mindset. I know you do as well. I say this a lot of times is, through my lifetime, because I was a coach, I went to football school. You know what I mean? I went to the clinics. I went through all of that stuff. I learned how to approach football, and that's why I have an understanding of what they're doing. I'm not saying I understand all. I'm never going to understand all. And anytime you think you understand all about football,
you're a fool.
You're a fool. You can't possibly. You want to constantly be learning, constantly be growing. So there's lots of things you can still learn, but it gives you a different perspective on football. So we're trying to tell you here, there's a different perspective than what some are portraying right now. It's fair points that they're making. They can express it their way, and if you like the way that they're expressing it, that's fine. We're just giving you a different perspective on how a football coach approaches the game and the attitude at which you're going through this training camp and practice process.
And speaking of people being party poopers, Kyle Shanahan was a party pooper as well today because he came out and reiterated also that he would be absolutely stunned and shocked and surprised if Trey Lance was the starter week 1 at Detroit. And as the words left his mouth, my Facebook feed and all my 49ers Facebook groups blew up with people, this guy's an idiot. I don't know what he's talking about. How could he possibly say that? He should want Trey to start. Of course he wants Trey to start. Don't be that guy. Of course he wants Trey to start. Everyone would love Trey to start.
Yep.
But Trey's got to get there. Trey's got to prove it. And Trey's still got a bunch of things that he needs to learn and a lot of things that he still has to prove.
Yeah.
He hasn't... The pads are on, but the bullets are not officially flying yet. His first preseason game, bullets will be flying a little bit, and we'll get to see how cleaned up those mechanics actually are. When the pressure's actually on, there's a play clock. Yeah. There's someone across the field who isn't going to get to him and stop.
Yeah.
They're going to wrap him up and take him to the ground.
Well, right now, Alex, to take what you were saying about bullets flying, he's at a gun range.
Yes.
No bullets are flying at him. He's firing bullets. None are coming at him. When he gets into a preseason, he can be fired, back upon. So it's a different world.
Correct.
But you're right. Kyle Shanahan blew everyone away, and he reiterated what he was talking about when he said no quarterback competition. He said, no, there is competition at every position. But what he's talking about when he says no quarterback competition is they're not going to get equal reps. It's not going to be first-team reps for Trey Lance, and he has no thought about giving him first-team reps.
Which is driving people up a freaking wall.
Yeah.
How could you not want to give him any... And then I heard someone go, he is getting first-team reps. I've seen him working with the first-team wide receivers.
Yeah, because it's a rotation.
Against the second-team defense.
And it's a rotation. That's what you do. You rotate all these guys through. So you're telling me you don't want Jimmy Garoppolo to work with Travis Benjamin and Richie James and all them? Of course you do. They're rotating with the first team. You rotate them through. It was a report Austin Watkins was working with the first team.
Oh, people were losing their minds.
Oh, yeah.
I told you this dude's making the roster. Guys, it's...
Well... It's the understanding of what's actually going on in practice. That's why you have to have 12 receivers, so that way you can keep everyone fresh. That's why you see receivers standing there as the quarterbacks are doing warm-ups. They're not running routes to save their legs. It'd just be too many reps as it is.
Correct.
You're getting, 40 reps in individuals and then another 40 or 50 in team. That's just too many reps.
It's a lot of reps.
So it's just different. They did get way less during the regular season, so it's just way different. So I understand where Kyle Shanahan's coming from this. It did not surprise me, but I did tell you guys this was going to happen. I did say what's going to happen is if Jimmy Garoppolo is to start, people start blaming Kyle Shanahan that he's afraid to pull the trigger on this, that it's his fault because they wanted to push the narrative right away that Trey Lance is ready to start. Could Trey Lance be ready to start? Yes, he could. I never want to act like I don't think he could start at some point.
He very well. Oh no,
because I have so much faith in his abilities. But I do know how hard it is to pick up an offense and how complex it is. No matter what your level is, as far as a quarterback or as a football player, just picking up a new offense. If Alex Mack is having to pick up new things, this has got to be hard for Trey Lance, and he's got to know what everyone's job is, what every read is, where he's supposed to go with the ball. There's just so much stuff. The guy is thinking, is he doing extremely well? Yes, he is, and I'm very happy about what he can do in the future.
We all should be excited about that because if something happens to Jimmy Garoppolo or Jimmy starts playing bad, Nick Mullins and CJ Beathard is not walking out there into that huddle and torpedoing our chances.
Yeah,
you're going to get a guy like Trey Lance who's going to be able to take shots downfield. He's going to make mistakes, but he's going to make more big plays and he's going to make catastrophic season-ending plays.
That's another thing I would like to address is the big plays down the field. That is overhyped.
It has been blown out of proportion.
It's overanalyzed because just because he's taking deep shots down the field, that is not the most important thing. We can't have this guy out there just hucking and chucking it down the field. We need him to be able to hit rhythm passes.
You can. It's just not going to lead to success.
No, it's not going to be successful. Yeah. You need to hit rhythm passes. He needs to be able to operate every aspect of this offense. So, yes, the deep passes are great, but I need a lot of consistency from him hitting all those, and he might be doing that. But because it's not reported or analyzed like it should be, you don't know what his success is in that intermediate range where the 49ers live and thrive in this offense. That's something I think that we're kind of overhyping the amount the deep ball is meant, in this offense, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that Jimmy Garoppolo is criticized so much for the deep ball. That is a way for them to take a shot at Jimmy Garoppolo while praising Trey Lance.
Look, and we've seen the conflicting numbers and the stats and all of that. We talked about it a little bit at the start. But there have been a couple of consistent guys who have had it roughly the same, which is Jimmy in the 60%, low 60s, and Trey in the mid 50s, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I think he's like 56, 57%.
That number makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Just based on some of the things that I've seen, some of the things that I've heard, and some of the errant throws that we've heard from Trey Lance. Thanos has talked about how his worst throw is always his first throw, and then it's nothing but greatness from there. And then I hear other people talking about, well, he did have that one where he threw the ball like 3 yards over the guy's head on an out route, or there was no one around him, and just a bad miss. And he tried. There was a situation where he tried to put touch on the ball. And he probably just should have just thrown it in there and fired it in there. And it's like, okay. I mean, again, that's a guy who's working on a skill set that he struggles with. That's the knock on him, right? He doesn't necessarily have the touch on the football that a Jimmy has. Yeah. Because he's the strong-armed guy. That's his strength right now. He's the rocket arm. He's the cannon. And so I none of these things right now matter to me. I want technique. I want footwork. Right. I want clean stuff for Trey Lance, because Trey Lance's technique being closer to perfect and closer to compact and closer to clean means a better Trey Lance.
Yes.
I still see sometimes in footwork drills where he's too quick with himself, and he's getting too wide and too big with his steps. And at the NFL level, if you get a little too wide when you're drop back, or a little too wide when you're planning and stepping up in the pocket, or trying to change directions, it's the difference between you being able to get away and you getting brought down for a sack, or you trying to step up and get away, but your base is too wide, your center of gravity is off, and now you're stumbling and fumbling around. And if you're not protecting the football, and the pressure's collapsing, and the pocket's collapsing, that can lead to turnovers also. So all of those things are concerns. Does he have time to clean up all those concerns? Yes. Should we allow him the opportunity to clean up those concerns and those things? Yes. 49ers fans, don't try and jump to Trey Lance greatness. Let Trey Lance get to greatness. Let him take the journey. He's going to be a better quarterback for it if he overcomes adversity than if you just hand him the keys to the castle and tell him he can do no wrong. You hand him the keys to the castle and tell him he can do no wrong, we may not ever see the highest potential of Trey Lance. Let him make the journey. Let him make the climb. That is what makes the story special. That's what makes the player special. And that's what is going to make all of this that much more great.
Yeah, I was watching some quarterback drills today. I was watching them set up in the pistol and throw the ball. One thing that was very clear, and this came out in the quarterback search process when the 49ers were looking at different draft picks, was how Kyle Shanahan prefers his quarterbacks to set up in the shotgun, and that is with a staggered stance with the right foot slightly back. Jimmy Garoppolo, right foot back. Rosen, Sedfield, right foot back. Trey Lance, even. It was it was something that stood out to me because I know what Kyle Shanahan wants. So I don't know if he's being taught that or if he's yet to develop that. But that is something that I just noticed and I thought I'd bring up because that is an interesting thing. Because usually when you have a quarterback coach and a system, they're all going to do things the same way. So the fact that he was doing something different was a little surprising to me. I don't know if that's going to be addressed. Maybe it's a point that they're just working on or they're going to work to. But I thought that was interesting that he was a little even. That is something you can do in certain situations. Maybe that's how they're teaching him because of the read option or that. But usually, the way Kyle Shanahan likes him to set up, it's the right foot back.
Yeah, and I'd be a little concerned as a coaching aficionado if you're setting up typically in the staggered stance and then you're shifting to an even stance for read option.
Oh no, he's just doing it.
It's just him doing it the whole time.
He's doing even the entire time. Okay. They were actually working on throws at the time.
Okay,
they were working on quick throws to the flat. Screen passes, smoke screens.
I got concerned.
No,
I got concerned that maybe he was given something.
It was all smoke screens, and that's why I was wondering why his foot wasn't back. Because if you have your right foot back, it's easy to turn, throw here. Easy to turn, throw here. He was here, so he's having to move his feet all the way around and throw.
And maybe it's something with him that right now they're trying to work with him on getting his feet around and set quicker, sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe they're trying to keep his whole body, in alignment. So they're working on that. But it was just something I picked up on that I was watching film, and it was like, okay, one is not like the others. Now he was throwing a great ball. Don't get me wrong, he was throwing a great ball. I just thought that was a little tidbit that I saw.
Yeah, it's fair. It's fair to bring up, especially since we're not, making a big deal out of this and turning this into the end of the world or anything.
Oh, it's definitely not the end of the world.
No, it's just something to watch.
It's process.
No, it's something. That's where our curiosity is piqued, right? It's why? Why are you doing that? And not necessarily saying there's anything wrong with it. I would just like to know why. What are you working on? What is the idea behind it? Because it's obviously something that is being instructed.
And if it's different, if Kyle has him doing it different. Why exactly is that? When he's in, is it going to be more of an emphasis on the read option and the RPO out of the shotgun and the pistol? So that's a lot of things that you can kind of glean and look into and find out what's going on. That's why I was excited to kind of see that, pick up on it, so I can watch it more when I get to training camp because that's what I'm excited to do.
We're super excited for that, man.
Can't wait.
Saturday, just get here, please, full of everything good and holy in the world. I did see a nice tweet from NFL Redzone. Said 6 days till NFL football a few days ago because we got the Thursday Night Hall of Fame game this week.
True.
And I was just like, don't tease me.
Yeah.
Don't tease me. Don't you do it to me. Don't you do it
right now. We're almost there. We're almost to football being here. I think this is the last Sunday where we don't have football, some sort of football until the middle of February. So it is here. Football season is here, and pads are here. So that's great.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff. And I think we had some visitors today for the 49ers at practice.
We did. It was interesting. David Shaw and the Stanford staff was there at 49ers camp. It's always interesting when you see those kind of guys there. But I'm sure they were just following the coaches around, getting a little insight on what's going on. But David Shaw's a smart guy too, so I'm curious if they picked his brain any on what he sees from the quarterbacks or anything like that. Because
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, he knows football. He knows run game.
Yeah,
and he knows blocking and stuff. So. That would be kind of curious as well.
Definitely would be. I'd be really interested to hear what they talked about and what they discussed, and then just the emphasis. And also, it's always cool if you're a college coach. I mean, imagine, right? Coming in as a fan and just watching training camp, that's cool. Imagine being a coach at a college and being able to come into an NFL, right? Setting an NFL environment and sit in with coaches and sit in meetings and just see what they're doing and seeing their process and just being able to compare it to what you do.
Yeah.
You could glean so much off of that, man. That's going to help that Stanford program.
Oh, I used to learn so much just being a high school coach, going and sitting in college, meeting rooms and watching the same film that they watched and just how they talk and how they organize. And then, also the pro coaches as well. You could just learn so much. And the differences in how they approach football is different from college to pros because of the limits they're allowed to practice and all that. So much that goes into it. But yeah, anytime you have a chance to learn from somebody that knows more than you or somebody that does something different than you, go do it. It's always fun. You learn the whole aspect of football. There's so much that goes into it. So many different ways to do it. All of them work. It's just you got to make sure that you find the right one that works for you and the people that you have on your team and your personnel. When you find it, it's magic.
Absolutely. It's magic. And you know what else is magic? This podcast right here and the Cutback crew, as always. Hit that like button down there. Hit that subscribe button. And let us know what you thought about this breakdown of day 5 of training camp. Again, let us know about your favorite moments, your least favorite moments, the things that you're most worried about, and the things that you're just trying not to pay attention to because you're sick of hearing about it. We want to hear all of that great comments and all about that great content down below in that comment section. And while you're down there, don't forget to also scroll just a little bit farther. Check out the link tree that we have. Takes you to all of our socials, YouTube page, and most importantly, that merch shop. You can grab this sweet 49ers Cutback shirt. You can grab that sweet training camp gear to celebrate Trey Lance and Trey Sermon at 49ers training camp of 2021. You know you want to cop some of that merch. It is glorious merch. And Ant, day 6 incoming, day 7, right? Incoming, day 8, day 9, and then glorious, glorious day 10.
And it was funny because you brought up Trey Lance, so I have to bring up one more story about Kyle Shanahan.
Goodness.
We had a reporter that said, "Hey, Kyle, Trey learning, how's he doing out there? How's he reading?" And he goes, "Who? Trey Sermon?" And he knows it's Trey Lance, and he goes, "No, Trey Lance," and he gets a big grin on his face, and he's doing great. Oh, what about Trey Sermon? Oh yeah, he's doing great too. Yeah, I just thought that was funny. It's always nice to see Kyle loose and having a good time with the reporters. When they ask those kind of questions.
Also peeking behind the curtain a little bit, and maybe the entire time they actually did know that they were going with Trey Lance and just let all the Mac Jones stuff fester just for giggles.
Yeah.
Just for giggles. Look at him squirm, John. Look at him. I think it's Mac Jones. What a bunch of clowns.
Well, when he first found out what was going on, he said, "Oh my gosh, this is getting out of control." It's like, yeah, guess what? We get out of control about everything. 49ers Twitter is a real problem. If you haven't been on there, maybe not. It's crazy.
You got to dip your toe into 49ers Twitter. You got to dip your toe into 49ers Facebook as well. You really just got to be very careful when you're wading in because it can get a little spicy.
If you go neck deep, you're getting pulled under. That's 100% going to happen to you.
That is for sure. That is for sure. Man, let us know all about everything we talked about today. Let us know about things that we didn't talk about as well, things that you want us to cover. Yep. We always enjoy hearing from the Cutback crew. Man, I'll tell you what, Ant, this is a great, great breakdown. Still tons of stuff to talk about.
Very true.
Still glorious things coming your way. And until next time, 49ers fans, you stay safe.
And remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.